From the moment a child is born into royalty, the path ahead is unlike any other. There is no freedom to choose a career, no space to wander aimlessly and discover life at one's own pace. Instead, the path is carved by history, expectation, and tradition. A single birth carries the burden of destiny, and with it comes the weight of centuries. While most children are celebrated only by their family, a royal child is celebrated by an entire nation, their existence tied not only to joy, but to a continuation of power, order, and identity. What may look from the outside like privilege is in reality a lifelong contract to serve, one that begins before the individual can even comprehend it. This burden is subtle in early years, hidden behind ceremonies, cameras, and rehearsed smiles. The child may feel the warmth of family and the safety of palaces, but even in those moments of innocence, the world outside sees more than just a person. They see a symbol. They see someone who will one day hold the key to continuity. The smallest gesture, a shy wave, a fleeting glance becomes a matter of interpretation, dissected by media, debated by critics, and recorded in the archives of public memory. Unlike other children whose mistakes are forgotten within hours, every misstep is documented and replayed, sometimes for decades. As time passes, this burden grows heavier. Adolescence, a stage of experimentation and freedom for most, is replaced by a carefully monitored routine. The world outside whispers about destiny and responsibility, even before the young heir has had a chance to understand what it truly means. Education is no longer just about knowledge, it is about preparing for the throne. Every subject studied, every language mastered, every public appearance is part of a greater plan. A smile at the right time, a pause at the right word, a firm but respectful tone, all are rehearsed not for the sake of personal growth, but for the nation's perception. This is the price of destiny, to bear the weight of a crown before it even rests upon the head, to walk hallways of history and realize that portraits of ancestors are not just decoration, but reminders of the responsibility one day to come. There is no room for rebellion without consequence, no opportunity to vanish into anonymity, no choice to say, "I will be someone else." The burden is not only political, it is deeply personal. Friendships are filtered through lenses of trust and loyalty, every confidant questioned for intention, every relationship measured against the throne's image. Even within the comfort of family, there is a subtle reminder that affection exists alongside duty. What makes this journey so demanding is not only the public expectation, but the private realization that individuality is often set aside for symbolism. To be destined for leadership is to live in constant duality, the human desire for freedom clashing with the royal obligation of service. It is to carry a name that will one day belong not only to oneself but to history. It is to accept that one's life, while lived in the present, is also written for the future, where generations will judge every decision, every word, every silence. The weight of this destiny can sometimes feel like a cage, gilded and beautiful, yet restricting. Luxury surrounds the heir, but freedom is scarce. Privacy is rare, and authenticity must often be hidden beneath formality. Each decision, no matter how small, echoes far beyond the palace walls. To stumble is to create headlines. To falter is to spark doubt in an entire institution. And so, the heir learns early to move with precision, to speak with care, to hide emotion when necessary, and to embody stability even in moments of uncertainty. Yet within this burden lies a unique strength. Carrying such a destiny demands resilience that few can imagine. It requires the maturity to understand that one life can never be lived solely for oneself. It requires the acceptance that happiness may not come from freedom, but from purpose. The heir learns that while the weight of history is heavy, it can also guide. The mistakes of past monarchs become warnings, their triumphs become lessons, and their legacies become blueprints. Each chapter of the past whispers into the present, reminding the heir that destiny is not merely about inheriting power, but about preserving a nation's trust. As the day approaches when childhood must be left behind, the transformation becomes visible. The posture becomes straighter, the eyes more focused, the voice more certain. The burden of destiny begins to shape not only the public figure but the private self. What once felt like an overwhelming responsibility begins to merge with identity. The heir realizes that while the crown is heavy, it is also a privilege to serve. That life may not be ordinary, but it has meaning beyond personal desire. That sacrifice, though painful, is necessary when one is entrusted with the hopes of millions. The shocking truth is that this destiny was never chosen, it was assigned at birth, and yet, despite the weight of it, there emerges a strength, a clarity, a recognition that greatness often demands the surrender of self. The burden of destiny is heavy, but it forges character. It transforms a child of circumstance into a leader of history. It is not the fairy tale that the world imagines, but it is a journey that carries a unique form of honor, one that will forever distinguish the heir from all others. The crown dazzles in the eyes of the world, but its shine often blinds people to the sacrifices hidden beneath it. From the outside, royal life looks like privilege, a life of luxury and elegance marked by ceremonies, travel, and influence. Yet behind the palace gates, the cost of carrying such a role is measured not in riches, but in freedom surrendered and personal dreams quietly abandoned. The true story of royalty is not simply about living in grandeur, but about giving up the ordinary experiences that define most lives. Every moment of life is carefully monitored, planned, and scrutinized. Privacy, something that many take for granted, becomes a rare treasure almost impossible to find. A simple walk through the city, an unguarded conversation with a friend, or even a private expression of emotion, is overshadowed by watchful eyes, cameras, and whispers of the public. Each step is choreographed to ensure perfection, because one slip of the tongue, one gesture taken out of context, can ripple into national debates or international headlines. The sacrifice here is not just of spontaneity, but of authenticity, as every action must serve the greater image of the monarchy. The cost extends deeply into personal relationships. Friendships and romances that would normally blossom naturally are weighed against loyalty, reputation, and public perception. Every companion is measured not for the comfort they bring, but for the risk they pose. Trust becomes a rare commodity, as even those who seem genuine might betray confidence for attention or profit. This constant vigilance makes intimacy fragile, and true companionship difficult to find. To carry the crown is to know that one's circle will forever be small, carefully chosen, and sometimes painfully distant. Sacrifice also comes in the form of youth denied. While peers are free to make mistakes, rebel against authority, and explore the world without consequence, the royal heir lives in a realm where every misstep is remembered and criticized. There is no room to fail privately, no safe place to stumble and rise again without the world taking notice. The teenage years, meant to be a time of freedom and experimentation, are instead filled with lessons in diplomacy, duty, and discipline. From an early age, speeches are prepared, public appearances are required, and ceremonial roles replace the joy of anonymity. The natural process of growing up is interrupted by the heavy demands of leadership training. Even leisure carries weight. Vacations are carefully staged, hobbies chosen with caution, and personal passions often set aside if they do not align with the public image of responsibility. The heir may long for a quiet night at a cafe or a simple trip without fanfare, but such freedoms are rarely possible. Every outing attracts headlines, every choice reflects on the family, and every private moment risks becoming public. What is sacrificed here is not only privacy, but also the ability to live life without judgment. Education, too, is molded by obligation. Where others study to pursue their own dreams, the heir studies with a different purpose, to prepare for the throne. History, law, languages, military training, and diplomacy dominate the curriculum, not necessarily because they are passions, but because they are necessary tools of leadership. The path is narrow, carved long before birth, leaving little space for exploration. A love for art, science, or adventure may exist, but those interests must often yield to the pressing requirements of service. This sacrifice of choice is among the greatest burdens, the inability to decide one's future freely. The public often admires the elegance of ceremonies, the glittering gowns, and the regal speeches, but few see the discipline behind them. Long hours of preparation, constant coaching, and relentless expectations build an image that looks effortless, but comes at the cost of personal comfort. Every smile is trained, every phrase rehearsed, and every step intentional. There is little space for raw emotion or unfiltered truth, because the role demands composure even when the heart may be heavy. What is given up here is vulnerability, the human right to be imperfect, replaced instead with the duty to appear flawless. Perhaps the deepest sacrifice is the surrender of self. To become a monarch is to embody an institution larger than any individual. The person fades, and the crown becomes the identity. Dreams, preferences, even personal opinions often remain hidden to maintain neutrality and unity. A life that could have been guided by personal desire is instead defined by national expectation. It is a constant balance between serving the people and suppressing the individual within. This erasure of self is not always visible to the outside world, but it is profoundly felt by the one who bears the responsibility. And yet, through these sacrifices emerges a paradox. In giving up so much of a private life, the heir gains a role of immense significance. The sacrifice is not meaningless. It is exchanged for influence, continuity, and a chance to shape history. But that does not erase the personal cost. To watch others live freely, to yearn for the ability to make mistakes without consequence, to long for relationships untouched by scrutiny, these are the quiet aches hidden behind palace walls. The crown may sparkle, but beneath its brilliance lies a story of endurance. The sacrifices behind it are not always visible, yet they shape the character of the one who wears it. The weight of leadership is built not only on the authority it grants, but on the freedoms it takes away. What the world applauds as elegance and privilege is, in truth, the result of countless unseen compromises. And it is in these sacrifices that the true measure of strength is revealed, the ability to give up pieces of personal freedom for the sake of service, to set aside self for something far greater. Resilience is not born in comfort. It is forged in pressure, expectation, and constant examination. To step into a role defined by centuries of tradition requires more than charm or lineage. It requires the strength to withstand the unrelenting gaze of the world while carrying responsibilities far beyond one's years. In the face of criticism, doubt, and the weight of history, the ability to rise with dignity becomes the true mark of leadership. From the earliest moments of public life, every detail is dissected. A speech may be praised or dismissed, a gesture interpreted as strength or weakness, a single glance magnified into national conversation. Where most young people are free to stumble in anonymity, the heir to a throne must stumble in front of millions. It is in these moments of vulnerability that resilience is tested. To fall and rise again while the world watches requires not only discipline, but courage. It means learning to endure scrutiny without letting it shatter confidence, to accept that perfection is impossible, yet composure is essential. This resilience is built step by step, often in silence. Long before official duties take center stage, preparation shapes the foundation. Endless training in public speaking, lessons in diplomacy, hours of rehearsal for ceremonies all demand patience and strength of will. Mistakes are corrected, weaknesses exposed, and every flaw addressed until composure seems effortless. Yet beneath the polished surface lies the reality of countless struggles, quiet frustrations, and the determination to keep going. Resilience is the ability to take correction not as criticism, but as preparation, to understand that each challenge is building the leader that the nation will one day rely on. The test grows harder as adolescence collides with duty. While others navigate friendships, self-discovery, and freedom, the heir must navigate politics, tradition, and expectation. Choices that might seem simple: what to wear, what to say, how to react, carry meaning far beyond personal preference. Every decision becomes a statement, every silence an interpretation. The resilience required here is not only about enduring pressure, but about finding identity within constraints. To remain authentic without breaking protocol, to express humanity while embodying stability, is a delicate balance that only resilience can sustain. Public life brings with it a unique form of criticism. For some, monarchy itself is outdated, and every appearance of a young royal becomes a battlefield of opinions. There are those who admire, and those who condemn, those who celebrate, and those who question the very existence of the role. To live at the center of such division is to learn quickly that not all voices can be satisfied. Resilience becomes the shield against doubt, allowing the heir to continue forward despite resistance. It means accepting that leadership is not about pleasing everyone, but about serving with consistency and purpose, even when misunderstood. This strength shows itself most clearly in moments of symbolism. A speech delivered to a nation carries not just words, but the weight of continuity. A salute in uniform represents more than training. It represents loyalty to service and country. Each public action is not just performance but representation, and the resilience to embody such symbolism without faltering is extraordinary. Even when nerves threaten to overwhelm, the heir must stand tall, project calm, and convey confidence. That ability does not come naturally. It is carved from years of learning to breathe through doubt and rise above fear. What makes this resilience remarkable is not only the ability to endure, but the ability to adapt. Modern leadership is not the same as in centuries past. Tradition still matters, but relevance in a democratic society demands relatability, humility, and connection. To balance centuries of ritual with the expectations of a younger generation requires flexibility without losing stability. Resilience here is the art of transformation, of keeping the essence of monarchy alive, while reshaping it to meet the present. It is also a resilience rooted in self-awareness, to recognize that life will never be fully private, to accept that freedom will always be limited, and still choose to serve with dignity is a profound form of strength. It requires letting go of resentment and embracing purpose. It requires turning sacrifice into motivation and pressure into discipline. Without resilience, such a path would break even the strongest spirit. With it, the weight becomes bearable and even inspiring. The journey, from heir to leader, is not measured only in ceremonies or official duties, but in the unseen moments of endurance. Nights spent studying speeches until the words flow with natural grace. Days filled with lessons in diplomacy when the mind longs for rest, endless hours of public life that demand smiles when exhaustion sets in. These are the invisible struggles that forge resilience. Each challenge faced and overcome becomes part of the armor that protects against doubt and prepares for the future crown. In the end, resilience is not about appearing unshaken. It is about being tested, shaken, and still choosing to stand firm. It is the quiet strength to continue when the world doubts, the courage to represent unity in a divided time, and the determination to embrace a role defined long before birth. Leadership, in this sense, is not granted by title alone. It is earned through the relentless practice of resilience, the ability to withstand storms and emerge not weaker, but stronger, ready to carry a crown that symbolizes both history and hope.